that can you put yourself in their position. And so when we're giving directions, when we're talking to somebody, let's try to imagine what it would be like to be them. All right? And I think what happens too often is we assume too much when we're communicating. We assume that they know basic information when maybe they don't know anything at all. And so we have to start at the beginning when describing how to do something, okay? We start at the very beginning, okay? And again, we're looking at the differences between public speaking and a conversation. And again, I think we talked a little bit about this last week, but when you're doing a public speech, especially with a group of strangers, we avoid slang and jargon and expressions and idioms typically, okay? I probably won't use a lot of those with you guys, okay? If I were having a conversation with American friends, I use a lot of slang and jargon and things like that because I know they understand that, okay? But in public speaking, our words are going to be more structured, okay? What about these words? I just used one of them, okay? What do we call these? They're not really words, they're utterances, okay? We want to try to avoid those, but if you were to count all my utterances in the next hour, it would probably be a very high number. I try not to worry too much about that, okay? Using the word okay is an utterance. Now see, there's my friend calling probably. See, you know, now I got, does anybody want to try to help this guy? Hello? This is not part of the show, by the way. This is a real thing. Yeah, where are you? All right, you're in front of building 10 on the street, okay? Maybe somebody, I could come out and find you. Where I can't do it. I'm sorry, I'm tied up. There's a gentleman that's coming out right now, very good-looking guy that didn't shave today, or maybe yesterday too. No, it's not Mike Bedwell, it's some other guy. Yeah, his name is Manny, all right? What is your name?
Peter.
Peter. Peter's coming out to get you, all right?
Well, Jimmy, when I first
is this building 10 here?
No, 9.
This is building 9.
It's a long way from one mark 10.
You're in front of building 10.
Tell him to get into a taxi, give him
Yeah.
street address.
Well, now I've got a stereo effect going on here.
If he's by building 10, you just tell him to stay there.
Okay, just stay where you are. Don't do anything stupid. All right. All right. We'll see you. Bye bye. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. You see, that's not part of the show, by the way. This is we could have scripted this, but no. This is a real call, a real person. All right. And these things happen. Okay. And by the way, when you're doing a presentation, you should always turn your cell phone off. All right. Okay. All right. Unless you know there's a guy that's lost and can't get here, then you keep your phone on. Because you have empathy, all right? So these are some of the things that we want to avoid. And I don't know if you have the same issues when you're speaking Russian. Do you have this and and things like that? Okay. All right, okay. Because actually in a conversation, is actually a very good thing to do. As a therapist, oftentimes I have my interviews recorded, and a lot of what I'm actually saying is, okay, tell me more about that, interesting, okay. That's actually very good when you're conversing with somebody, but in a public speech, it's considered not so good, okay? All right? So, okay. Questions? Interrupt me, please. Anybody?
I have a question.
All right, I like
A lot of people speak about Steve Jobs' presentation.
All right.
What do you think what secrets did he?
Well, you know, I probably listened to one or two of his presentations, but I think, first of all, remember, if you're Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, when you walk into a room, there's instant credibility. All right, people are going to listen because you are a famous, successful person. All right, when I come into a room, you know, I'm not a famous, successful person. I'm sorry. All right, some people consider me successful, but not somebody that you will read about in the newspaper. Okay, so Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and other people of that nature, they have instant respect and credibility when they're giving a speech. And there are professors and academics that have that same respect and credibility. Unfortunately for me, I've always had to earn that. When I go in front of a group of students, I have to earn their respect. And until I earn it, they're probably not tuned in to me. And in fact, when I go into a strange room with a strange group of students, they'll usually give me 3 to 5 minutes to prove myself. And that's the danger in public speaking, is that most people are on your side, but they'll tune you out if you don't give them some information that is relevant in their life. They're going to say, no, there's no point in listening to this guy. He's boring. I know all this stuff. He's a gas bag. And I'm going to do something else. Think of something else while he's speaking and talking, okay? Steve Jobs does move around on stage a lot. I'm not moving around. I just don't feel the need to do that, but he moves around quite well. He doesn't give long speeches. His speeches are generally 20 minutes. And what he tries to do in those 20 minutes is to make 2 or 3 very good points, okay? So, and he usually has state-of-the-art technology behind him, and those things help as well. The visual aids help a lot, okay? But I think, again, it helps to be famous. It helps to be very successful because people look at you as being someone that they can learn from. Whereas somebody like me, I must prove that I know something that the students don't know. Does that all make sense? No, it doesn't. Okay. Anyway. Okay, we talked a little bit style versus content. I am more of a content person. I'm not so focused on my style. In other words, how I'm presenting. I rather focus on the content, but how you present is very important too. And you need to use both of them, okay? Okay. Move forward here. These are again some points to consider. What is your body language telling others about you? People are judging us all the time. As soon as we come into a room, we're being judged. And fairly or unfairly, we're under a microscope when we're giving a presentation. Okay? At least for a while. At least for a while. Okay? And of course, we have to ask ourselves, how do we think others see us? Okay? And are we able to create a good impression? And how do you create a good impression as a speaker? It's important, by the way, that those first 5 minutes go very well. If the first 5 minutes don't go well, the last 5 minutes, I guarantee, are not going to go well either. So how do you get off to a good start? That is one of the keys in public speaking, is to get off to a good start, get the audience behind you, have them think that you actually know what you're talking about, even if you don't, which is often the case with me. All right? But how do we get off to a good start? What are some tips that you guys have in getting off to a good start with the audience that you're with?
Questions.
All right, asking questions? All right, ask the audience questions? Okay, and that's not a bad thing to do. Okay, get the audience involved, because if you're asking the audience questions, they're going to be more focused on what you're saying. You know, the audience member doesn't want to not know the answer, so they're going to pay more attention to you if you are getting them involved. Okay, so that's one way. But you, of course, have got to ask them questions that are not going to cause problems for them, okay?
Maybe some self-presentation would be good in the beginning when you're telling why are you speaking of that
right.
and why do you have like the ability to talk to them.
All right, you want to give a brief, bio sketch of yourself. Tell people what your credentials are. You also, I suppose, want to tell them what they're going to learn and why it's important. Okay, what they're going to learn and why it's important. Okay? And again, we need to stimulate our audience. We don't want to frighten them. There are professors that are very frightening, and if somebody is too frightened. We know they don't learn and they don't retain information very well. So the idea is to create a good atmosphere where people are stimulated, they're focused, they're interested, and they're more likely to remember the information that you give them. And it's all about remembering things. If you can't remember something, what's the point in being there, okay? And again, why should they listen to you? Why should any of you listen to me, okay? I need to show you why it might be important to listen to me and how it might affect your life, how it might make your life better, because I think everybody here wants a slightly better life, right? And what could I give you that might make your life just a little bit better, okay? And by the way, what's one way to get the students' attention? There's one thing I can say that will get students to listen to me. All I have to say is this information will be on the exam. All right? It seems to work, and they seem to start taking notes, okay? All right. There is something called high self-monitors and low self-monitors. A high self-monitor is a person who can go into a room and be like a chameleon. He can adjust to whatever is going on in the room. Low self-monitors are always themselves. It doesn't matter if you're with the Queen or the Queen's valet. You act the same in those situations. I think as good public speakers, we have to be more high self-monitors. In other words, we have to adjust to the audience. We have to adjust to the person that we're communicating with. We can't expect them always to adjust to us. Okay? Okay. And again, I think this is common knowledge, and you guys can look at this stuff. Does anybody have a question now? I mean, we're probably about halfway through. Anybody want to throw another question at me? Any kind of question related to problems that I've had or other things that might come up when you've given a speech that you're not sure how to deal with? Anything? Mike?
I want to Dominic, because probably asked you this, made this point in private. Picking up a question which was asked over there quite early. How do you deal with disruptive students? And a technique I developed, and it's very labour-intensive on my part, is actually after the first time I meet them, I aim never, never to actually address them as a public. I give them an exercise every week, which they work on in groups. They know it's going to be graded. And then, as you say, the groups tend to divide into three parts. One lot discussing football over there, but at least they're not interrupting others. That's, I think, the trouble with the bottom 1/3, if you like. It's not just that they're passive, their snoring or their chatter or their use of the mobile phones actually disrupts all the others. So, but this, in my experience, works pretty well. It gives me time, and then I spend the time going around talking to the people in groups.
Yeah.
And if somebody is having difficulty, I would say, well, perhaps I'm not explaining to you very well, but go and talk to Olga over there, and I think she seems to have got a nice way of solving this.
Well, what about...
very organised stress. It took an awful lot of preparation.
You know, and I think a lot of the things that, you guys know what a syllabus is. That's the information that a teacher gives before the class starts. That's something that could be on the syllabus. Turn off your cell phones, no cell phone communication during the class, and things like that. Those are class rules that all instructors have to have in order to keep control, all right? Now, what are some of the other problems that can go wrong when you're doing a speech or when you're providing a lecture?
Can I get the phone of your friend, please?
Okay.
Because he's not at the test house.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, well...
What can you ask her about the name of the street?
Well, if he's not reading Russian, we don't have time for English.
Okay, this is...
We are ready for Euro.
This guy's been in Kiev 10 years. There's the
He has
number.
money, you can give him the address, you can
Here's
take
the
a
number.
taxi.
And I'm sorry, guys. See, these are the things that can go wrong when you're doing a speech, all right? Okay. What else can go wrong during a speech? What are the things that you need to be ready for when you're speaking and maybe things don't always go the way you want them to go? Thank you.
You're running out of time and your presentation is not finished yet. Far from it.
All right, yeah, that does happen. We have to pace our presentation, and frankly, with